G'day and welcome back to another episode here at the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you with me today. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Really excited about bringing you this episode today. It is my interview with Dr. Catherine Pittman. She is a highly respected clinical psychologist, been in the industry in the field for over 3 decades. She's also the professor of psychology at St. Mary's College, Notre Dame, and she's got a number of books, including the one that we discuss in this interview, which is Rewire Your Anxious Brain. And that's exactly what we talk about today, anxiety, right? Like we all have anxiety, some higher than others. I've certainly dealt with it in my life and found tools to help reduce my levels of anxiety. And we discuss that in this episode as well, the practical tools that we can use to help reduce our overall anxiety. But first steps first, it's understanding where it stems from. And that's really what this conversation is all about. Hope you guys enjoying it. Stay tuned in all the way through. Again, you can check out the full show notes at episode 1147 at thehiddenwhy.com, and I'll chat to you at the other end. Cheers. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
How exciting. What an amazing topic. Anxiety.
Oh,
Anxious
anxiety.
brain.
Amazing. Yes, anxious brain. We've had them for centuries, but only in the last, 25 years or so have we gotten an understanding of what's actually happening in there.
Right. So the wiring or the triggers and how it all works. I mean, you've been
Where it
studying this for
starts.
30 plus years, right? You're a clinical psychologist and a professor at St. Mary's College. You've got some experience around anxiety.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, because I did some research on rats, and I wasn't happy that they were making me do this as a clinical psychologist, because I thought I was ready to be a therapist, and they said, we're going to do research on rats. We're signing you to this gentleman. But do you know, because I did that research on fear in rats, I understood Joe Ledoux's research in a way that most clinicians didn't. And that helped me to be able to explain when he was explaining the rat brain and how it relates to rat fears, I could translate that. And that's what really helped me to say everyone needs to understand what's going on in our brains. We like to think we're so different than rats, but I just want to tell you, Leigh, that when we are afraid, our cortex gets turned off and pretty much we're kind of left with the rat portions of our brain.
Right.
So when we're anxious and afraid, the parts of our brain that we're so proud of, they get kind of taken offline.
Are they shut down?
They're overridden by other forces that are trying to keep us safe. The fight or flight response,
Right.
can take over. And then all of our thinking processes aren't readily available. Have you ever had that where you're in a situation and you can't think, you can't decide, you can't focus even?
Yes, and no doubt I have. I'm trying to think of a recent
Well,
example, but
sometimes
yes.
sometimes on an exam, maybe you remember when you read a question where you didn't know the answer and you were just struck with a fear that, oh my God, I'm going to fail this test.
Right.
And then you couldn't even really carefully read anything beyond that. And that's because your cortex was taken offline in a way. And you were getting feelings more like wanting to leave the room. Let's go. Just forget this.
Yeah, right. So
It doesn't work
anxiety
it doesn't work. It doesn't help in the 21st century.
doesn't, no.
It doesn't.
Anxiety in the 21st century. I mean, you've been doing this for some years. Have you seen the cases for anxiety skyrocket or increase?
Yes, in fact, and also with COVID, we had an increase in specific issues like OCD. People got very concerned about contamination.
Right.
So certain things definitely got worse and worse. Anxiety has always, though, been one of the most common problems that humans face.
Is it anxiety increased because of modern society, or is it just because we've got more knowledge about it now?
Oh no, it has to do with the fact that now if anyone gets killed in an automobile accident within 50 miles of my house, they have to tell me about it.
Uh-huh.
So that every day I'm exposed to kind of fearful images and stories that before I would never have been exposed to.
So break it down. I know you do this well in simple terms for someone like myself to best understand anxiety and I guess the
Okay.
brain and where it comes from.
Okay.
You talk about the cortex and the amygdala as parts of the brain, but maybe you can go into a bit further detail there. Where does it stem from?
Okay. Where does anxiety stem from? Well, it always is created, and it's a feeling that we have. You know,
Right.
it's a sense of dread, it's a sense of fear, it's an activation of the body, but it's always created in a certain part of the brain called the amygdala, which is just a little almond shape. There's two of them actually, one on the left or right. So we have two amygdalas, but they create the anxiety. But
So what is the purpose of the amygdala?
well, it's in this realm, what we're talking about today, its role is to protect us. It's our
Right.
protector. And so it is constantly scanning our environments. It, this is the strange thing. It can hear things and see things before you do. It's set up in such a way that when well, let's talk about the cortex and the amygdala for a little bit, okay?
Okay. Yeah, please.
If you are if you see something, let's say you're in your shower,
Yeah.
taking a shower, and you see something off in the corner, and all of a sudden your heart starts pounding, you know, and you jump out of that shower very quickly, right? It could be that you don't even know what it is that you're reacting to. And this is because the way our brain is set up, you don't see things until you don't see things when they're processed by your eyeballs, you know.
Hmm.
You don't see things when sounds come in your ears. You only hear things and see things when they're processed in the parts of the brain that sensory information's processed.
Right.
So when you saw something in your shower, you know, you didn't see it, quote, see it until the information got from your eyeballs all the way to the back part of your cortex back here.
Hmm.
This is where you actually see. Same thing with hearing, that when you hear things, it's when it's processed in your brain. Now, here's the thing though, our brain is set up in such a way that anytime sensory information is coming in, it's always set to a certain place called the thalamus. And then the thalamus sends it on to two places. One place is wherever it needs to be processed in the cortex. Like it's visual, send it back here. It's auditory, it's up here. You know, if it's tactile, you know, something you're feeling with your hands, or then it's more in here. Okay, different places.
What's the thelma?
But you know what? The thalamus,
Thalamus,
the
sorry.
thalamus, okay, it's like a walnut shaped thing right in the center of our brain. It's like Grand Central Station with all this
So,
information from our senses coming in from our eyes, our ears, even from your butt if you're sitting in a chair
so
like
is
me.
that the
You're
nervous system
feeling it.
all connecting there
It's
in the thalamus?
it's part in the thalamus. It's like Grand Central Station of a train station with all this tracks of information coming in, and it knows where they're going. It's like you need to be sent there, you need to be sent there, you need to be sent there.
Right.
But
Okay.
here's the strange thing, okay? At the same time the thalamus sends it off, it also sends it down to its little friend, the amygdala, which is very close. They live right as neighbors, you know. Sends it to the amygdala. Now the amygdala is getting information,
So the
right?
amygdala
So
gets all the information from the thalamus?
it gets it before you get it. Isn't that kind of spooky?
Hmm.
Your amygdala was seeing something in your bathtub, in your shower, before you saw it. And you had this sense of fear and jumped out of your shower. And you were kind of like, what the hell? Something, there was something. I had to get out, right? Now, here's the thing. Now you peek back in the shower, look down in there, and there is a wad of hair from the last shower you took, probably, you know,
Yeah.
this wad of hair over there. But it looks strangely like a large spider, maybe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Because your amygdala saw that first, it can't process things in the detail that we can in our cortex, but it gets a pretty quick and dirty image, right? So like if you're walking in the woods and there's a curvy thing in front of you and it looks like a snake, your amygdala is going to make you jump away from
I've had
that
that. Yes, that's
before
a
you
good
can even see
example.
it,
Uh-huh.
right? Even if it's actually not a snake, it's actually a vine.
Yeah. I have that
Even if
often
it's
actually.
just a
Yeah.
curved stick. Does that
Hmm.
happen to you often?
Yeah, when I'm walking,
Yeah.
I see something, I go, ooh, and then I realize it's just a branch or a palm frond or something.
Okay, but notice how your emotional reaction happens so quickly and you're actually retreating,
Yeah.
moving before you've had time to even process it.
Hmm.
Now, once you realize that we have this protective system in our brain that's designed to be constantly scanning our environment, listening for dangers, looking for dangers. And also, you know what? I want to be clear that the amygdala is also looking for good things like chocolate chip cookies or sexy people, or it's looking for positive things to move
It's kind of
toward.
saying what we should move towards and away from
But you know what? People don't, yeah, it's doing that. It's doing
in
that.
relation
It's
to
it's
our
like
survival ability.
yeah, it's a relevance detector. Some things are boring, like who cares about that? It's a tree. But uh-oh, that's a dog, coming toward me, or that's someone attractive, So it helps us pick out what's going on in our environment. But the thing is, it's seeing and hearing before we are.
Hmm.
And because of that, there's a couple things we need to know. Sometimes it produces reactions in us like fear or even a feeling of fondness, even like if there's some gray-haired lady and her hair is kind of curly and you say, why do I feel like positively toward her? It could be your amygdala is thinking, that looks like grandma. That looks like my grandma. You know, I like her. But there's something going on with the amygdala you might notice. The amygdala does not see things in the detail that you
Right.
see things. Like you say, that is not grandma. That is not a spider, or that is not a snake. But that's because your cortex can give you so much more specific information as it processes. But
So
it's a delayed,
the amygdala responses before the cortex has a chance to, generally, is that the go?
oh yeah,
But the
oh
amygdala
yeah.
sort of assesses whether it needs to respond or not, first of all, and then,
And and it operates on the idea if if it could be a snake, let's react as if it is a snake.
right.
You know? It's like let's
So
just
it doesn't
be
take chances.
conservative. Don't take chances. So here's what ends up happening though. The amygdala does make mistakes, right? The amygdala makes mistakes where we're reacting to something that's not dangerous in our shower as though it is dangerous. And we're having real feelings. And this is the
Hmm.
thing that people get confused about. They'll say, that didn't make sense. That was craziness. No, no, it was very real. You were reacting to something. But the detector, this amygdala, is not able to process things in the level of detail to always be correct.
Yeah.
But it's going to be safe rather than sorry, as we say
Yeah.
it. Rather be safe than sorry. But once you start to understand this process going on in your brain, you start to realize that we can be frightened by many things that are not a danger to us.
Hmm.
And we're frightened before we can even kind of test in our
Compute.
thinking processes,
Yeah.
should I be? Should I be? And once you're feeling frightened, it's only normal to trust that feeling. It's a very real feeling. It's real,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we live in a world where things are presented to us and we're emotionally reacting before we have a chance to consider what we're even reacting to,
Yeah.
right? So
So the amygdala,
understanding,
can
yeah.
it learn? So if I have the stick
Oh,
in front
yes.
of me and I go, oh geez, and I pause and have that moment of freak out, and then
Hmm.
I compute it and go, oh, it's just a stick, silly me, and I keep walking. Can the amygdala then send, or can something send a signal to the amygdala saying, no, you idiot, like that was just a stick. Next time, just
Hmm.
be a bit more thoughtful about it. Like, does it learn that way?
Hmm. No, it doesn't learn like next time be more thoughtful. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
learn that. It learns if something looks like a snake, I'm going to react because I've
So
only
it'll
got
always do
my way.
that.
It'll always do that. But it does learn things. Let me tell you about some things it learns. Like if if you are, 6 years old and your mom invites a clown to your birthday party, and
Oh,
this clown chases you around and tickles you and kind of scares you, and from then on you are really scared of clowns, right? That's your amygdala, right? Your amygdala learns from your experiences. Some people think clowns are great and they run up to them hoping to get candy or a hug, but some people are like, clown, eee. right?
Yeah.
The amygdala learns on your experiences, on the basis of your experiences. So it definitely learns. And it'll learn to be afraid of anything that was associated with any negative emotional event that happened to you.
All
And it
positive.
could be something wonderful, even if it's positive. Like let's say a little boy's coming to visit his grandma. He jumps out of his car and he's running up the driveway, right? And she's all prepared to see him. She's got him a little teddy bear, right? And she's holding it out. And he's running toward her on the driveway. Look at it, Grandma, Grandma. Falls, splits his lip open, right? And she's like, oh, honey, honey, I got you this teddy bear. And he's like, ah. That's the last thing he saw before his lip was split open. Teddy bears are not a good thing to his amygdala. The amygdala connects your experiences together like that.
Uh-huh.
And so it doesn't have to make any sense. It's just on the basis of pairings. Just on the basis of pairings. So the amygdala is definitely always learning. And that's why our amygdalas are useful, because they translate into new environments. Because if something turns out to be a dangerous thing, like whether it's going into an algebra class, turned out to be a bad experience for you, you never want to approach algebra again, or it has to do with, riding a bicycle and falling down and hurting yourself, whatever, those things can get associated as dangers to the amygdala. In other words, what that means is when the amygdala processes it, when the amygdala sees it,
Yeah.
it creates in you feelings of the fight or flight response. Run away, run away.
Is that fear?
That is fear. It also
Because
is
anxiety is not
anxiety.
attached to that. Anxiety is produced.
You know what the difference is between fear and anxiety? We say fear when we think the person being afraid makes sense. So we'll say, you're afraid of a dog 'cause you're afraid a dog's going to hurt you. That makes sense. You're afraid of a dog. But then we might say test anxiety, because you say you studied for it. Why are you anxious? It doesn't make sense. Why are you nervous? And the test isn't going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you. When we say anxiety, it's because if someone's having a fear, but we're like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like you're nervous about this situation, but we think your fear is overblown, then we call it anxiety.
The fear is causing the anxiety?
No, the
No.
fear is what we call things when we think it makes sense, the feeling you're having, then we label it fear. But the very same processes in our body, the very same things, heart pounding, a release of adrenaline. If it's in a situation where you say, there's nothing for you to fear here, you're going to be walking down the aisle at your wedding and your heart is pounding and you're all nervous. You have anxiety, honey. You just have anxiety, honey. Fear and anxiety, though, when you really look at what's happening in the body, they're pretty much the same thing going on in the body.
Okay, let's put it in context, like public speaking, for example.
Okay.
So when I go public speaking, I get quite nervous about it. So that's my amygdala trying to protect me.
Yes.
Like,
your
like
amygdala's
before.
trying to
But I
protect
guess
you
I've got
from.
anxiety. Like I feel I've just got anxiety. I don't see the fear component of it.
Well, your amygdala is trying to protect you. One thing we've discovered humans are afraid of just naturally, there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
We tend to be naturally afraid of insects, animals, but people's eyes looking at them.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
It scares people. Well, we were prey. Eyes looking at you, probably not always a good idea. Can make you nervous when people are watching you. And it's funny because people will say, I'm scared. And if you ask them why they're scared, they'll make up reasons. They'll say things, that they think could make sense. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm afraid that these people are judging me. I'm afraid, I say all the time. Makes me nervous. People think I'm ignorant,
Yeah. Well,
So
I bring up
all
public
these
speaking
things
because
were
I know that's one thing that most people fear.
one of the biggest fears, and it's very connected to our need to be accepted by our group. We need to feel safe. and
Yeah.
that people aren't going to reject us. And so getting up in front of a bunch of people and putting yourself out there to be judged in some way, it's a risky thing. Just evolutionarily, we want to fit in with our groups.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but all of these different experiences that we're talking about, we're having this part of our brain that is formed during the period of time when we were prey to predators. And a lot of what it reacts to is kind of outdated. Like people looking at us doesn't mean they're going to try to kill us and eat us, you know? But our amygdala does react in fear to us being observed by others. It seems to be a very, very strong built-in kind of reaction. Now, can we get over that? Yes, we can.
It's
I
interesting on
bet
that
you and I
that
have.
eye thing, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
direct eye contact. Because I was listening to something the other day, they were talking about, eye contact between partners is really good for oxytocin,
Oh, yeah.
and so that's interesting too.
Hmm.
Then, so why does one hence
Hmm.
eye contact maybe brings that fear response out, yet at the other thing, it's actually a really good belonging oxytocin producing tool.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's completely different situations from the amygdala's
Right.
point of view,
Hmm.
you know? So, what we need to know is that we have a part of our brain that is constantly trying to protect us. And the very first thing we need to do with people is help them understand when we're feeling anxious or fear or having a panic attack. I really try to help people understand that that is the fight or flight response. Your body is being prepared to run away or to fight off someone or to just freeze. And my students do this in class too. When I ask a question and try to get them to give me an explanation of something,
Yeah.
and I could just see they're like, I'm invisible. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Don't call on me,
Yeah. Yeah. I know that
where
feeling.
people
Yeah.
freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, those are the things that the amygdala can do in a dangerous situation. Fight, flee. That's what it gets our body ready to do.
Mm.
And so you want to know, this is the thing that's so important that people don't understand. There are things we can do to reduce our fear that they don't make any logical sense until you know what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Like, for example, do you know if you're feeling nervous? Tell you a story about my brother. He got in trouble with a former employee because he had a bunch of him of clients that followed him to his new employer, and he got sued by his employer. Said you can't take those people with you. Though they were served by our company. My brother was like, they still knew my phone number. You didn't give me a office line or anything. You
Yeah.
told me to use my cell phone so they could just find me. I didn't steal them. They followed me, whatever. Anyway, the judge found for my brother, said you can't keep people from contacting someone they thought was a good person to work with. Um, anyway, here's the story though. He was in court, very nervous about this. Was this
Mm.
going to be a lawsuit where he lost a lot of money? He's very nervous. He's telling me he sits there and he's like trembling. His mouth is dry. All this, he's having that fight or flight response going on in his body, and it's a specific set of responses. So I said, well, one thing you can do before you go into the courtroom, run up and down the flights of stairs several times. Just do some running and
Right.
then jogging like that, or out or go around the building or whatever,
Change of
and then
physiology.
come in. And he said, "What does that do?" I said, "Your amygdala is prepping you to run away. So if you do that kind of aerobic motions, our amygdala is kind of programmed to
Mm.
shut back down a little, like you did. Now, it doesn't make any sense, you know, unless you know that what the amygdala is trying to do is say, run away, run away. So you're like, dude, I'm running away for a while. Look at me, I'm running. And that aerobic exercise fits what the amygdala is programmed to get out of us. Once we do something like that, it tends to reduce anxiety, even
Mm.
though the situation didn't
So you're kind of
change.
tricking your amygdala.
Tricking your amygdala. Exactly.
So you
Exactly.
could
And so,
run, but what about the freeze? Could you freeze or could you fight to?
um, Well, the freezing doesn't usually help in terms of making the amygdala really, the fight and flight is what your body's getting amped up for. When you have a panic attack, you release all this glucose into your bloodstream. Your muscles are very activated, all this. And, we call it a panic attack only when we don't need it. If you were in a car accident and you needed to, break open a window and get yourself out, we wouldn't call that a panic attack. We would say you needed the fight or flight response, right? But this is what's going on in our bodies. And when, when you're going, my students are coming to take an exam or something, they'll say, my heart's pounding, I'm really stressed. And when they have to come do their senior presentations, once again, I say, go for some jogs before you come and do your presentation. Helps burn off some of that adrenaline, that whatever calms the amygdala down. And it doesn't make logical sense because they're coming to do the presentation they're afraid of, right?
Right.
It doesn't but it makes sense in terms of the way the amygdala is structured and the way it functions.
Right. Okay.
And so then people start saying, if you start saying, okay, if anxiety is about my amygdala, what else can I do? What else can I do to help my amygdala? And I said, well, regular exercise tends to make for calmer amygdalas. If you're a person who uses exercise regularly in your life, you're going to tend to reduce your anxiety. And that's just something we've discovered. Another thing is sleep.
Why is
Another thing is sleep.
movement and the change to your physiology like exercise? And I can definitely relate because I know I've got a fairly regular exercise routine, and I know when I don't
Good
have
for
that,
you.
I do have a higher level of anxiety generally.
You definitely noticed that. You made that connection.
100%, yeah, yeah.
100%.
So why is movement? What does movement do to the amygdala to help reduce
Well,
the fear
what
that
we
it creates?
found is it seems like it's affecting certain serotonin receptors, but if you ask me, why does it do that
Mm,
exactly? I can't tell you why, but
mm.
we definitely see changes in the that are associated, changes with these serotonin receptors that are related to that. And
Gotcha.
what I would say also is sleep is also really connected to amygdala activation. So if you have a couple of nights where you're not getting good sleep and your sleep is curtailed, you tend to be more anxious on those days, more irritable too, more easily startled, and your amygdala does not do well with less sleep.
Mm.
So I've had people come to me and say, I really don't like this whole idea of getting on medications. Is there anything else I can do to help with anxiety? And I say, sure. Do you want to increase an exercise program and work on your sleep? And they say, does it help? I said, calms your amygdala. And then it makes a difference to them. But you have to be able to introduce them to the amygdala, or people will say, exercise and sleep. What does that have to do with anything?
Mm.
But if you're saying we're trying to calm your amygdala, and we know certain things that do you want to know? I was trained early on, 30 some years ago, about teaching people this relaxation breathing. I cannot tell you the number of people who rolled their eyes, thought it was stupid. The idea that a certain kind of breathing, seriously, that's what you want me to do. It's supposed to help. But you want to know what's been a real game changer? Being able to show people images of, look at this. This is an image of the brain of someone's amygdala when they're looking at scary images like car accidents or war images or whatever. And this is what happens. Watch what happens. The amygdala's activation goes down when we have them breathe a certain way. You know what people say then? What way do you breathe? How do you have to breathe? They want to know about it because you tell them this actually changes faster than benzodiazepines. What's going on in your amygdala?
What's your
But
breathing
you have to,
exercise?
the breathing exercise,
Yeah.
just that diaphragmatic, slow breathing.
So is it like a counting breathing technique you use?
Hmm.
Count in for
Yes,
four, hold your
yes.
breath, or what do you use exactly?
I don't think that holding your breath is never good. The amygdala is not like holding breath. If you want a panic attack, just cut off your air and you'll have one, right? Don't hold your breath. You should be breathing in and breathing out at
At a
a rate
slow.
of about 5 breaths. And a breath is in and out, at a rate of 5 breaths and in and out. 5 of those a minute, or maybe 6 a minute.
Right. So just
Certain
longer, slower
slow,
breaths in and
longer,
out.
slower, right.
Uh-huh.
And it calms the amygdala down. If you hold your breath, you can see your amygdala get activated because it's very sensitive to an imbalance in the is it carbon dioxide, I don't want to say monoxide, carbon
Yeah.
dioxide and oxygen. It's very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
So your amygdala is a little alarm system that just plays havoc with us, right?
I want to know,
And
like, if your amygdala calms when you're sleeping better, exercising well, doing some
mhm.
breath exercises,
Oh yeah.
why does the amygdala calm? Is it because your body's calm and the overall cortex or brain is calm? Like, what is it exactly that's helping it be calmer? Because I can certainly relate. I can think of times recently even where, I haven't been sleeping as well. My health hasn't been as good.
Mhm.
Exercises that, over Christmas and New Year's typically. And so
Mhm.
you're on higher alert and you feel a little bit more edgy and anxious.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and you want the why because you're the why guy, of course.
Well, yeah, I'm
Right.
just
So
wondering
why? Why?
why does exercise, for example, help the amygdala be more
Well,
balanced?
I like I said, we discovered some changes in the amygdala that parallel exercise increasing. So it could be that there's some kind of feedback loop about exercise, which is the thing that often, running or swimming or whatever seems to have been associated somehow in our evolution with having some kind of positive impact on the amygdala. I
Hmm.
I don't I
It's
can't really
interesting
tell you,
because you think back to the
but
caveman days or whatever, where
hmm
it's
hmm
obviously good to have an amygdala that's in high alert status. You wouldn't want your
hmm
amygdala to be calm if you're sleeping in a cave and worried about I don't know, a
oh
tiger
no,
coming in the middle of
no.
the night, right?
That's right. That's right. In fact, that's another thing that we talk about is that when you tell an anxious person you need to get more sleep, you can't stop just with that kind of instruction, Lee. You have to tell them how to get more sleep because it's a challenge when you're anxious to sleep because we are not designed to sleep when we're anxious. We're
Hmm.
designed to be up, right? And that's why it's not a good idea to get in bed and look through your phone because all the different things that you see are more likely to activate an amygdala,
Yeah.
right? You should listen to something boring. Don't focus on that. Actually, you shouldn't have much light in general coming
Yeah.
into your eyes. Screens aren't good when we're trying to go to bed. How do you get the melatonin to be released? So just trying to understand our brain here. But
Hmm.
going back to this, if we have an amygdala that needs this kind of sleep, I can tell you what we've discovered is that when you're looking at people's sleep cycles, the amygdala is activated during a certain kind of sleep. And guess
Right.
what kind of sleep it is? REM sleep.
I was going to say REM.
hmm And REM sleep happens when? It happens much more in the last hours of our sleep. You get more REM sleep late in the evening rather than early on. You have to get through 4 hours of sleep and you only get maybe one puny little slice of REM. But in those last, and I say this to my students, in your seventh and eighth hour of sleep, you get more bands of REM sleep. And they say, what 7 or 8 hours of sleep? I don't sleep 7 or 8 hours. I say, that's what I'm talking about. If you would sleep longer and get this REM sleep, you'd have a calmer amygdala. And
Yeah.
so why is what we're I'm anticipating, why is REM connected with the amygdala? Well, remember our amygdala doesn't just react to things. It also creates memories of bad experiences we've gone through. And when I say it creates a memory, I do not mean that it's like a little video recording of what happened. It makes a connection clown dangerous, right? Or it makes a connection passenger seat of car dangerous,
Hmm.
right? And that memory needs to be encoded. And if you have new experiences with the passenger seat of a car
Yeah.
or with a clown that are not danger, the amygdala will update its memories. The amygdala will actually, change its reactions even. But it doesn't learn through anything you and I talk about. It learns through experiences.
Hmm. And
So
that's
a
like
lot of
that
what,
REM sleep is where your brain is processing the information from the day, right? That's where it's actually going,
right,
look,
right. It's
and saying this is
memories
necessary, not
especially.
necessary.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so something about what's going on then is important to the amygdala. And if you don't give the amygdala that kind of updating, your amygdala seems to be more reactive.
Yeah. So you find, I mean, that calm, like I practice meditation and certainly I have noticed, I wouldn't do it otherwise, but uh, I've definitely noticed the effects of it calming my overall anxiety.
Yeah. Meditation.
Yeah, meditation. Things don't upset me as I'm
Now,
not
what do you do during
worried.
meditation? What does your meditation involve?
I used to I've done different things over the last decade. I've
Okay.
now done transcendental meditation, which is the new practice I've just studied. So that's what I do twice a
Hmm.
day for 20 minutes.
So does it involve deep breathing?
No, it's just really just
Not so
thinking on a
much.
mantra. Yeah.
Thinking on, okay, so focusing on a mantra, okay,
Calming the
sitting
mind, getting the
still,
mind to, really
calming,
go
okay.
below surface. And
Yeah.
everything I've done is similar, like whether it's counting or observing the breath or you know, going through the body flow or listening for sound, all that sort of mindfulness meditation
Hmm.
stuff seems to have a lot of big benefits with the amygdala,
And
I imagine.
you know what I think is another good thing that happens when you do meditation, you're kind of training your brain to obey you when you say, we're going to change focus. We're going to look at this now. We're going to do this now. And this is such a healthy thing to be able to do, to be able to let go of something.
Mm.
And so many people have anxiety because they keep stuck on, can I say, a channel? We used to talk about television channels, but now people are like, I don't know if that's going to be something, Catherine. I don't know. Do you know what I say when you're on a certain channel and you need to change the channel?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Well, okay, you understand. My students might not keep understanding because they don't know sometimes what I'm talking about when I say certain things. But okay, so meditation helps you change the channel. So let's say you're driving home, you hear something on the radio about somebody was in a bad accident, accidentally decapitated. Why do they have to tell you that as you are driving? This is a horrific image. And you keep kind of dwelling on it, thinking about it. People who are meditators are more likely to be able to say, switch the channel, think about something else, turn on some music or whatever, let go of that. And your
Yes, right.
brain,
Makes sense. I see what you're saying.
you have been able to you have been able to train yourself to tell your thinking processes what you want them to focus on.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is very helpful because there are people who I feel like I have to think about getting cancer every day for hours. I have to
Hmm.
think about that, or I have to worry about my partner cheating on me all the time and think about that and what that would mean and how I would handle that. And what they're doing, here's something that's important to know about the amygdala. When you are thinking thoughts about something, like your partner cheating on you, your amygdala reacts to those thoughts in the same way it might react to you actually seeing your partner cheating on you. Now, what the
Because
heck is
it
that
doesn't know the
about?
difference, right? Between what's real and what's not.
We haven't found anywhere in the brain that there's a way the amygdala can process the difference between the activation of thoughts about something and the actual experience of seeing something.
Hmm.
So if you're thinking about, I don't want to drive to work in the snow today in this ice, I'm going to slide off the road. If you're thinking like that, that can create a lot of anxiety in you when you're just sitting there drinking your coffee in the morning, or
Yeah,
maybe your tea in
yeah.
Australia. I don't know. With me, it's coffee.
Coffee. Coffee, tea.
Coffee.
Um, yeah, interesting part of the brain there then. The day and age we live in, and I look at it often and I go, why do we react? Why does the amygdala react to something that's not even relevant? Watching news and
Hmm.
not in a
Yeah.
negative way, but someone's died or there's something going on that causes you stress and anxiety when it's not even relevant to your particular plot in life. So
Hmm.
switching off the news can help really reduce that level of anxiety. And it's just weird why the amygdala reacts in that way when it's not
Hmm.
relevant to our
Hmm.
personal survival, but it
Hmm.
doesn't know the difference whether it's relevant to us or not.
Well, it's reacting to it as if it just saw someone's daughter get injured or kidnapped or
Yeah.
whatever, and it just relates that as, a potential danger that could occur. And it doesn't people fall into this too. We had a bus stop where I would take my daughter up the road to get picked up to go to school. There was a woman who stood down there the whole time. She said, "If you want, you can leave your daughter with me because I'm staying here just so these kids don't get abducted. I'm always going to be here until they get picked up." Every morning she said the word abducted in front of those children.
Yeah.
You know, no one got abducted in my neighborhood, but
Hmm.
she would probably have taken credit for that.
Living in fear.
Yeah, living in fear. So, sometimes it's useful also, though, to talk about how the amygdala and the cortex work together. So,
Yeah.
can I tell you a little example
Please.
that illustrates that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's say, I'll tell you about this cute couple that I love, Charlotte and Frank. Okay. Charlotte sometimes has to stay home by herself when Frank goes off on these fishing trips up into Canada, right? So one time when Charlotte was home and Frank was off fishing, she heard a sound in her house. And that sound, because we talked about this earlier, is going to be processed well, it's going to be received in your ears, and it's going to go not just to the cortex to be processed, but where else does it go?
Yeah. Up to the amygdala.
To the amygdala, right?
Uh-huh.
The sound goes to both. It's going to be processed in both areas. And who processes the sound first?
The amygdala.
The amygdala. So the amygdala processes this sound. And this sound, I'm going to tell you about it. The sound that she heard was the sound of the door from her garage into her kitchen opening, right? Now, when that sound was heard, her amygdala did not react to that sound
Right.
because it hears that sound all the time. It's a very common sound. Someone coming in from the garage, usually Frank, coming in from the garage into the kitchen. And so the amygdala did not react to that sound, right? So she didn't immediately have any kind of fear. But
Right.
here's what happened next. The information gets to her cortex,
Right.
and her cortex says that I know what that sound is. I know what door that is. Why is that door opening? Frank is 2,000 miles away. No one should be coming in the kitchen. And instantly, not only does she have that thought in her cortex, but her cortex can also start to anticipate things and say, there could be a thief. She could imagine a man with a knife, a man with a
Yeah.
bag to, you know. All right. Now, what's going to happen when she has those thoughts in her cortex?
Does that go back
Her
to the amygdala?
amygdala, no, her amygdala is going to go, whoa. Now, just a minute ago, the amygdala was perfectly fine. This was a common sound.
Yeah,
Didn't
but the
scare the
sound the
amygdala
sounds
at
come
all.
in and then it's gone to the amygdala and it sort of said, "Oh, that's a common noise. I'm not going to freak out about that."
Yeah,
It's gone to the
it's fine.
cortex and you're
Yeah.
starting to think about it, going, "Shit, that's a alert." So that then transmute sends a signal back to the amygdala to then
Nope.
no?
Doesn't send a signal to the amygdala. You know what it is? The amygdala is watching cortex television. The
Ah,
amygdala is watching all your thoughts. And when you think a scary thought like that, the amygdala is like, what? 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 A thief? Right? All of a sudden, Charlotte's heart's going to start pounding. She's going to feel like, I need to get out of this house. Right?
right.
She's going to, and then I ask my students if I tell them this story, I say, do you think that was a good thing that happened in her brain or a bad thing? And they're like, what? That her amygdala reacted to her cortex? That's good. Yeah, the amygdala should trust the cortex. like that. The amygdala should react to the cortex. Good. And I say, okay, that's what you think, but think about this. You know, when Frank is gone, Charlotte gets kind of nervous when he's gone. And sometimes when she's lying there in bed in the middle of the night and she's all alone, she hears a sound, something scratching, something. And she starts thinking that that could be a thief with an X-Acto knife cutting the screen and maybe crawling into her bedroom window to come in and assault her.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen when she has that thought? The amygdala is going to react. But do you think that's really what probably is scratching? It could be all kinds of things,
Yeah.
but that's what comes into her head. So here's what we have. We have an amygdala that is watching what you think. And if you have a thought, it doesn't evaluate it, like, is that likely? The amygdala doesn't do that kind of stuff. It just said danger, danger. And so right away, she might lock herself in the bathroom, scared. Why? Not just because of the thought, but because she starts feeling so scared. And now I could say to myself, because I understand that, I could say, look, I got myself all worked up by having these thoughts. Now I got myself all anxious. My amygdala reacted to what I was thinking. I don't know, and I do this thing to myself sometimes where my daughter's not home. She didn't make her curfew. And then I think, maybe she got in a car accident. I get myself thinking about scary thoughts, and then I get scared. This fear comes because the amygdala is reacting to my thoughts.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to say the fear is very real, but it's completely
Created.
unjustified, probably.
Would
But
you
it's
say that
definitely real.
that's majority of anxiety is from that process rather than the first that we've discussed? I think thoughts really control a lot of what we're thinking, obviously what the amygdala is
Exactly.
reacting to, and that's probably the cause of most of our
How
anxiety.
many times are, right, how many times are we afraid because of things we worry might happen and they never happen?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like that anxiety about your daughter, oh, she's not home yet, and then starting to fear about, oh, maybe she was in an accident, maybe she got kidnapped, and you just start ruminating on things that
Kidnap.
aren't plausible. Well, not
Hmm.
potentially plausible, but not, based on assumption.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
I feel like that's probably a bigger cause for anxiety.
It's where we create a lot more anxiety than we need.
Yeah, yeah. The tools for managing anxiety,
Excuse
then we
me.
talked about, you're right, exercise, sleep, um, meditation, breathing, things like that. Is there anything I've missed there
Hmm.
around what we can do to really help reduce our anxiety? And we talk about in this day and age, maybe switching off the news or turning off tech for a bit
Yeah.
longer. But what else? What
Mhm.
else do you recommend?
Well, first, I would say sometimes we just have to realize you can't trust your fear.
Yeah,
It's real. So, for example, I say to my students, how many times have you felt really nervous before an exam, got a perfectly fine grade? They say, a lot.
yeah,
I say, but then why do we trust our fear so much? Why do we trust our anxiety?
yeah,
You need to say, oh, I'm anxious before I do speeches. I get anxious, but it's fine. What we need to keep in mind, in addition to these strategies, is that anxiety and fear do not predict harm. They're emotions. And when you know the amygdala can be wrong, right? It can be wrong. That wad of hair in your bathtub,
mm,
that curved stick in the path. Sometimes you're thinking about, say, something at work, and it's the same thing. Your amygdala is reacting to this look your boss gave you. And you think, uh-oh, I'm in trouble because of that look. And all day you're nervous. And it could be your boss was looking at you thinking, I forgot, does he like this team? Should I invite him to the game? Or wait, does he not like that team? Wait, wasn't anything to do with what you thought.
How often does that happen? Well, we start making things up.
And you know who is the best at making things up? Smart, creative people.
Mm, mm,
We're great at it.
yeah, I'll make a lot of things up. Uh,
Yeah, we make, you know what? You know what Mark Twain said? He said, I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some he just thought about.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, they're just, like you said, going to an exam, you feel nervous every time, but you know that, you get a good grade and why did I feel nervous? And the next time you feel the same nerves and you go, okay, well, last time this didn't happen. But there's a part of this whole process that I guess is designed to make us more alert so we are better in
Yeah.
that situation at what we're doing. Like I always think if I'm nervous, well, that's
Yeah,
good because it means
but
I'm
guess what?
actually, my attention's
Nervous
there.
nervous nervousness doesn't actually help us with exams. It might help us with some sports things, maybe it increases our adrenaline, I don't know. But a lot of times you have to remember that our brain is designed to keep us safe in a kind of environment we don't live anymore. Luckily, our environments are a lot safer than they
Mm,
used to be.
yes.
And so we still live in a with amygdala that hasn't been updated. There's not been a new version of it. It's still operating as if the best answers are run away, fight, freeze, and it doesn't show any sign that it's good. Every once in a while, those things are really helpful. Even on the highway, sometimes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
We need the new Amygdala
where
15.0.
your amygdala kicks in, but we need the amygdala 2.0, but the truth is, it still is useful in ways. So we still have it.
Very
It's
useful,
still
but
good for us
again,
at certain
anxiety is
times.
more prevalent out there. Like there's more, it seems like people are more stressed, more anxious
Hmm.
than ever before.
Hmm.
But for unjustifiable reasons, mostly. Because you're right, like we're not going to get hunted by a tiger today. Generally we've got really good in most parts of the world, good living
Hmm.
standards, we've got roof over our head, we've got food.
Hmm. Yeah. But so much anxiety and so much exposure to all kinds of potential dangers that often don't apply to us. Um, and the truth is, we sometimes we're even attracted to looking at it, or um, we need to know about it,
Mm,
but we're putting ourselves in a situation where we're exposing an amygdala that can't decipher between something that happened in another city
mm,
to a person you don't know.
yeah.
It's still reacting, and I wouldn't want to just try to have us all habituate to just being accepting of all of just whatever happens. Oh, what the hell? I didn't know her. That isn't really, I think, what we want to do. But I think what we have to do is realize that it's a feeling created in the body, and it really connects to this fight or flight response.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we don't need the fight or flight response for the situation we're in. We're sitting in our living room watching television. All of a sudden, our heart's pounding about something that happened to
Nothing relevant.
somebody else.
I was thinking about this the other day in regards to my own life and um, like having that level of drama and anxiety. I was thinking that it sometimes maybe I latch onto it because it helps me provide an excuse from actually being calm or silent or gives me an excuse from doing the things that I should be doing in that sense.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Well, the amygdala is responsible for a lot of avoidance. A
Hmm.
lot of avoidance. Stay away from that, stay away from that, and it can be stay away from things that could be beneficial for you, but you don't want to risk that maybe it won't turn out well, you
Hmm.
know? That cautiousness And we need some cautiousness. It's just a
Yeah.
question of, are you overdoing it? And we all know people who are really, very cautious and very worried about things, and their lives shut down as that happen. And here's what I say is very important. You start with goals. We say in your life, what is important to you? What do you want to do? And I don't just say we want to get rid of anxiety. That's the mistake that people will sometimes make. Because guess what? I am an anxiety expert and I have anxiety. It's a daily or, very frequent kind of thing in all of our lives. We are anxious animals, you
Yeah.
know? We're the descendants of the scared people, the calm, chilled out people. They didn't survive, neither did their kids, you know? We're the people who lived because our relatives were cautious, right? And that's the
Yeah. So it's
amygdalas that
it's
got passed on to
it
us.
it's got a purpose. We just need to know how to manage it.
Yes, but here's what I would say.
Yeah.
If you have a goal in your life and it's being difficult for you, question whether anxiety is the barrier. In fact, let's talk about it this way. Talk about whether the amygdala is controlling your life. Talk about whether the amygdala is bossing you around, keeping you from like going and asking for a raise when you deserve one. And this is the way that I find we really need to work on it, is to work with people by setting goals, not start from the idea of wanting to manage the amygdala, wanting to get rid of anxiety, but start from how's your life? What do you want to do? What are the goals that you have? What are you struggling with? And so somebody says, well, I haven't gone out with anybody. I feel like I should get back into dating. So what's your goal? You want to get back to dating? Well, my goal is I'd like to get married. Well, could we just start with dating? Okay, let's start with just starting dating again. What's keeping you from dating?
Hmm.
Well, first of all, I got to be able to call somebody or talk to somebody. Or you're having trouble approaching people. See, now we start to get, your amygdala is blocking you, isn't it? Here's what's going on, You're thinking, I might like to talk to that person, that woman, but then you feel anxiety, right? That's your amygdala. What are we afraid of here? What are we going to do? So sometimes people have to learn that it's just fine to push through anxiety. We have to train them that there are ways they can feel more comfortable in situations, gradual processes, exposure, treatments, where but it all is in the service of goals that people have.
Yeah.
We're not trying to eliminate all anxiety in life. We're trying to help them not be blocked by trusting that their amygdala is somehow right about I shouldn't talk to this woman,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I shouldn't ask my boss for a raise.
Well, when you look
So
at,
I really start
why
with
your
different
amygdala is
goals.
blocking you, you might then go, okay, well, that's the goal. This is why it's blocking me. It kind of doesn't make sense, and that might just help you move forward towards that goal.
Right.
Mm.
And also sometimes you got to break things down. Like seriously, if someone will be like, I can't text people. I'm too nervous about texting people. And I've seriously had people sit practicing texting people as an exercise just to help their amygdala get comfortable with this
Idea of
texting and
texting. Yeah.
a fear of
Interesting.
texting. And
All
it's very big because
right.
it's relationships. Someone sends you're texting, and all of a sudden someone's like, "You're an ass," and you're like, "Oh, you know, this is not working,"
Interesting.
And so there's different things, but working from people's goals, starting from saying, "What is it that you want in your life that you're not getting?"
Mm.
What would you hope for? And people come in and tell me, I can't ride a train. I'm scared of riding a train. And I say, do you need to ride a train? No. How do you get to work? I drive my car. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Well, I'm not here to get you over every fear. Who cares? I mean, you don't need a train. I ask my students at class, I say, how many of you are afraid of snakes? Half the class or more.
Mm.
I say, do you need to get over fear of snakes? I said, now, if you want to be like my daughter's a landscape architect, she had to get over her fear of snakes because she needed to be able to go out there. There are rattlesnakes, and I couldn't believe my little daughter who was afraid of spiders when she was little. But we worked on that exposure
You must have
therapy.
seen, you've probably
Uh,
seen it all.
and now she's out there with rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. But she learned the principle. She learned the idea that if I want to achieve something, I can change how my amygdala reacts. Because I made her go down in the basement with those spiders over and over and over.
Yeah.
First times I went down there with her, she didn't even think, Mom, you could clear out the spiders. I was like, she never even thought of that. I just left the spiders in the basement because she needed to have experiences with spiders.
Oh,
First
the
she took me
trauma.
down, then she took the dog down, then she'd go down by herself. But then one day she was in college and she said, Mom, I was the only one in my room who could kill the spider. I said, good for you. You know.
Catherine, great conversation today. Where can people find out more about your work? We're going to have the links in the show notes to your books. You've got a few books out there, but the
Yeah,
Rewire
few
Your Anxious Brain, you've got Rewire Your OCD Brain, 50 Ways to Rewire Your Anxious Brain. So lots of stuff out there. But as
yeah.
far as your work and people reaching out to you, where do they go?
Well, mostly it's really looking into the books, and the books are written not for neuroscientists, not they're written for the average person.
Yeah.
And I have a workbook called Taming Your Amygdala that is really written for a person who's trying to feel like, I think my amygdala is what's giving me trouble. What do I do with this thing,
Hmm.
And you can work with that. But there's so many, we do understand what is causing anxiety in our brain. We don't understand what's causing depression. We can't point to different parts like this. We do have good treatment for depression, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's a way of changing your brain so that you don't have to be so limited by these evolutionarily determined, out of date, processes that restrict us. We can
Yeah.
change them.
Hmm. Which is good news.
It's good news. It's good news. So,
It's probably causing a lot of people anxiety. How do I go about doing this? Huh.
people are very anxious about it, but it's very empowering when you realize you can teach your amygdala to
Hmm.
respond differently and you can calm it down with certain strategies that might surprise you. They don't even cost money.
Yeah.
Meditation, sleep,
They're given to
exercise.
us. Yeah. It's brilliant. Well, thank you, Catherine, for coming on.
Great talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
Appreciate it. The show notes will be available at thehiddenwhy.com for everyone listening. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you reach out to Catherine. The book links will be there as well. And until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. There you have it, my interview with Catherine Pittman. What were your thoughts? I'd love to hear your comments, guys. You can connect with us on thehiddenwhy.com. Reach out through that platform there. My socials, Facebook and Instagram. Ideally, if you want to message me your comments, that'd be great. And check out the show notes at thehiddenwhy.com, episode 1147. The book links will be there for Catherine as well. So if you want to pick up copies of her books, support the show by using the links within our show notes, please. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Now, I've been doing this podcast for over a decade. Some exciting things happening behind the scenes now. We're working on a new format for our website, which is exciting. And also, I'm bringing back a solo segment as well. I used to do this many years ago, which I had a lot of good comments and feedback from. So I'm bringing that back. And that's aligned with the reworkings of the Ultimate Life Map. It's a book that I published a few years back now, and also a new book that I'm working on as well. So you'll hear more of that through that solo segment over the next 12 months as well. So pretty exciting stuff happening here at the Hidden Why podcast, and I'd love you guys to get involved in that as well. So reach out if you have any ideas, thoughts, comments. I'm always happy to connect and hear from you. And I hope you, once again, enjoyed this interview with Catherine. Have a great week ahead. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose.